Joining us now, Congressman Rob Wittman, Congressman, Republican, 1st District of Virginia. That is the Richmond, kind of the Fredericksburg area, goes into the neck. And the congressman also is the ranking member of the subcommittee on sea power readiness. And he is with us now after sending a scathing letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi that I want to get his take on. Congressman, great to have you with us.
John, great to be with you this morning.
Okay, so I read your letter. Go ahead and tell our audience what your letter said, sum it up, and then did the Speaker respond?
Well, John, this is the second letter I've sent to the Speaker, being very direct and saying we have business to do. We have got to get a budget agreement. We have got to get the debt ceiling addressed. We have got to get appropriations bills done. These are all fundamentally the most important things that Congress has to do. They are not done. We have this archaic tradition called August recess where we leave town this year for over 5 weeks with all this work yet to be done. And I've been pretty adamant through the years to say, if you don't get a budget done on time, you shouldn't get a paycheck, and you shouldn't get to go home, which many members use as vacation, unless all this work is done. I sent a letter several weeks ago to Speaker Pelosi saying, hey, tell the members now they were staying until this stuff gets done. Didn't receive a response. Sent another letter yesterday, pretty adamant, saying, hey, we've got a job to do, and it's your job as Speaker to make sure that the House does its work. That is your obligation to the membership and to the nation. Keep us in Washington until these things get done, until there's a budget deal, until all appropriations bills are done and adopted, until the debt ceiling is taken care of. I have not heard back yet.
So you've written her 2 letters, and both of them basically saying, let's get to work before we go home, and she's not responded to either one.
That is correct.
So you're 0 for 2.
0 for 2. I would hope to have at least received an acknowledgement that she had received the letter, but have not.
So what if you just called her office and said, hi, I'm Rob Wittman. I'm a congressman from Virginia. I'm the ranking member on the CPAR Readiness Committee, and can I come and meet with you? Like, what would they say? No?
Well, I would hope that they would say yes. If nothing else, I can walk up to her on the floor and request from her that she keep us in session in August until all this work is done. So there are a number of additional ways that we can approach the subject with her, and believe me, we will be doing that next week, which is the last week that we'll be in Washington if she doesn't keep us in session.
Some of your colleagues, Congressman Wittman, are pushing back on a new White House initiative that calls for a vote on raising the debt ceiling before August and then revisiting the spending talks in the fall. Here's what we all want to avoid, okay? And walk us through how we do this. And I'm going to be really blunt. I think if Eileen Filler-Corn and Caucus of the Corn in Virginia, and I know this is not necessarily your direct agenda, but if the Democrats take control of the House of Virginia and Kirk Cox is not the Speaker, I think the Republicans will be in the minority in Virginia for a generation because they'll have no ability to raise any money. They will have lost then 16 any kind of statewide races in a row. They're not going to hold the Senate. Tommy's gone. They are not going to hold the Senate. If there's a government shutdown in October before you go into the November 6th, the Democrats are going to win everything. That's my analysis, and I know that I'm right. How do you prevent that?
Well, John, there needs to be a budget deal. You cannot, I think, separate raising the debt ceiling from requiring that there is a deal to be done on the budget. That has to be done, and another continuing resolution is tremendously harmful to our military. We cannot allow that to happen. I would agree with you. You saw the impact on the Cuccinelli-McAuliffe race when there was a shutdown there. And believe me, I was out there knocking doors, talking to people. It did have an impact on that election. So, we have to get things done, and you can't separate things and say, well, we'll wait until later to deal with this budget. That all has to be done now. The longer you put it off, the less likely there is going to be a thoughtful and reasonable resolution to it, especially in light of what we need to do fiscally. I mean, the the fiscal structure of what we need to do for this nation has to be addressed now. And if we don't, the repercussions of that are going to be manyfold, not just with our nation, but as you said, potentially affecting the elections here in Virginia.
Well, Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri, the Senate Republican Policy Committee chairman, said yesterday that it would be better to vote on a comprehensive package and avoid a vote on the debt limit alone. I mean, the problem with just voting on the debt limit, you pointed out, I mean, that's just like kicking the can down the road. That's like saying, well, we can't get a budget, we can't figure it out, so let's just borrow more money indiscriminately just so that we can keep the government open, and there's no plan. And a lot of people that are concerned with a $21 trillion debt are saying, where's the end game here, right?
That's right. Well, that's correct, John. You can't do these two efforts disconnected from each other. You know, if you're going to manage this nation's debt and deficit, it has to be tied along with the approval to raise the deficit. If you raise the debt, if you raise the debt ceiling without saying there's going to be any sort of fiscal constraints, then you're just allowing the current problems to continue. I think there has to be, you know, a real and substantive effort in the budget to say there is going to be fiscal discipline. We are going to make sure that we at least start to put downward pressure on the deficit and debt. And you can't do that unless it's tied to your action on the budget and, in the turn, the appropriations bills. And when you try to separate the two, you just don't get done what you need to get done.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're live in Orlando, Florida. Today with me, Congressman Rob Wittman, Republican, Virginia 1st District, Fredericksburg area, and the Greater Neck. And he is also the chairman of the subcommittee on the ranking chairman. I said chairman for so long. Ranking chairman. Maybe next year, 2021, I can go back to saying chairman. Ranking, forget it. Sea Power Subcommittee. He's the Republican there. Rob, let's get to this rally on Wednesday with this chant, send her back. Now, I was not at the rally because I'm traveling in Florida, but I did see it on TV. I guess when they first started, I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought it was another one of those chants. I mean, I've been to 100 rallies over time. The president immediately was uncomfortable with it, so he started talking. And certainly the chant would have been better if it was vote her out or get her out or something of that nature. But do you think the president's a racist?
I tell you, I think the president's been very forthright in his comment about the response there at that event. I think he said, listen, I didn't like it. I still don't like it. And he spoke out against it. If you look, too, at all the things associated with this, the president was pointing out policy differences with these individuals, not just the four individuals that he spoke of there, but just overall with where the Democrats are on a variety of different policies. So the president, John, has always been about, you know, talking about those policies. Listen, he's very direct and forthright with it. But I can tell you that this is about policy, and the other side wants to turn it into issue of politics. As I said, the president's very direct and gets at these issues, and I think, you know, is all about making sure that we're doing what's best for the nation, and he's unafraid to point out where he has differences with the other side.
Okay, so Amara Lana said a lot of very controversial things about America. I mean, the one comment she made on 9/11, Congressman Wittman, some people did some things. She's made a litany of anti-Semitic comments that under any other circumstances, she would be condemned. She would be censored. That never happened. Yesterday, she calls the president a fascist, right? He's a fascist. What's that based on? Nothing. Just calls him a fascist. Why does that go? Why is that just go unchallenged? Like, what if? Let me just ask you something, Congressman. When Barack Obama lied to you and lied to us about you can keep your doctor if you like your doctor, you can keep your plan if you like your plan, and you're going to save $2,500. All three of those were a lie with Obamacare. Well, what if you got up after that passed and said on, I don't know, Fox News or CNN, MSNBC, what if you were quoted as saying Barack Obama is a fascist? How do you think that would have played the media?
Well, I don't think it would have been well received, and I always am concerned when there's these efforts, as you've seen on the other side, to really, I think, turn everything into something political. And instead of talking about why your ideas on what needs to happen with this nation are the best ideas and why they are better than your opposition's ideas, instead of that, what we have is this degrading into this back and forth name calling. I would argue that people, John, that I talk to are just tired of that. They are tired of everything being political, and that's I can tell you that's where the majority party is in the House today. Everything is political. You saw the hearings yesterday with the Director of Homeland Security. You know, that wasn't about trying to get to the issue about what Congress should do to fix a broken immigration system. This was about name calling and accusations. And I think people look at it and said, listen, you all need to actually get together and get some things done instead of everything being political. John, every single thing that we see happening here is political, and that's unfortunate. And I tell you, the American people are sick of it. They want us to get things done. They don't expect that we're going to agree on everything. But when you have a difference of opinion on what the public policy should be, then debate the public policy. But don't, on every instance, devolve into saying this is just going to be about name calling. And it's tiring. And there's so many things to be done that this nation has to get done that all the time now is being taken up on political back and forth. And I would argue political attacks. I mean, yesterday's hearing was all about attacking the Director of Homeland Security. It wasn't about, hey, what are we going to do to fix this? And the Director of Homeland Security pointed out, he said, listen, Congress needs to get their act together and get this done. Instead of coming in here and calling names on this and making all these accusations, what are we going to do to fix a terribly broken immigration system and indeed a crisis on the border? I think that's what people want us to do. And when you hear these words back and forth, they do nothing to move us in that direction.
Well, that's it. They absolutely just this hateful rhetoric back and forth, and it's all coming on the Democratic end. Yesterday, you voted for whether or not to move forward with an impeachment proceeding with the president. That failed miserably. Democrats, obviously, that are in any swing district not wanting any part of this. The country's against it. The president did nothing wrong. I mean, now we're using impeachment because you don't like his policies. I mean, it's maddening to anybody that follows this stuff and tries to be an honest broker of the truth like I do. I mean, the truth here no longer exists. I got to play this clip. I normally don't do this, but here's Representative Connolly, your colleague, that's just up I-95 from Fredericksburg. Here's Connolly yesterday. Kara, I want to get to cut 3, get the congressman's reactions. Here's Congressman Connolly saying, I don't necessarily believe impeachment isn't in Trump's future. Impeach him for what? What has he done? There's no crimes. It is mind-boggling. We're going to impeach him because he doesn't like his policies. It's just, your hair goes on fire if I had any. Cut 3. Connolly.
Well, it certainly pushes us further in that direction. I don't necessarily believe that impeachment isn't in Mr. Trump's future, but I do believe we in the majority need to be careful and methodical as we gather facts and as we educate the public. And that's the process we've undertaken. If that leads to impeachment, so be it. And I will support it at that time if that's what it leads to. Right now, we've got 6 committees with investigations underway in many different fields of endeavor. And of course, we also have Mr. Mueller coming to testify before 2 committees in open session. We need to hear from him, the author of the Mueller report, and digest the meaning of all of that before we take any action.
I'm sorry.
So I thought this was resolved. Now we get Mueller coming back, and they're still talking about impeaching the president after a 3-year study a 3-year investigation, 2 years, $36 million, 500 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, and now apparently they don't have enough information. What is going on with these people?
Well, John, as you know, Mueller has stated that he's just going to come in and restate what is in the report. So it'll be interesting to see, what's actually in the hearing. It's unfortunate that we are continuing to have a dialogue on nothing but the politics of things. The discussion now is about, all of the suppositions around impeachment. And just as you point out, this now ends up being something about political disagreements and saying, well, this is the way that we seek political outcomes, instead of at the ballot box now just saying, well, we're going to look at impeachment. And you saw that there were 90 plus members on the other side of the aisle that voted to pursue impeachment. That's unfortunate, and I think we've seen in the past the outcome and how the American people feel about impeachment. I mean, there has to be an extraordinarily high standard, I think, to even begin those proceedings. You saw that with Bill Clinton. I think people looked at him and went, whoa, wait a minute. I think the American public feels the same way now. I mean, this is the highest of standards. It should not be used as a political tool. This is the highest of standards in the Constitution on what should precipitate impeachment proceedings.
Unbelievable. The beat goes on. Meantime, Nancy Pelosi doesn't have time to respond to the ranking committee's member letter about how to resolve the budget crisis we have. They have time to impeach the president, vote on that, but she doesn't have time to respond to 2 of your letters asking her to stay in session. Unbelievable. Congressman, I'm out of time. More information, you can go to robwittman.com. Congressman, thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much, John. You all have a great weekend.